see you guys in the dark.
When I was 18, I was living in a small town. I was friends with the ratty skaters around, and they helped connect with this dude who sold weed. He was 29-ish at the time, and gave me pretty good deals. I lived nearby, so it was great. I wasn't driving at the time, so this was convenient for me. His name was Max. Max has always struck me as a weird dude, but I honestly quite liked his weirdness. Not in a romantic way or anything, but I like weird people. We had normal buying interactions that never lasted more than 10 minutes. Buy some weed, maybe smoke a bowl, that's it. He'd often tell me that he could drop it off at my house, but I never let him because, as I said before, he was weird. I wasn't afraid of him, but was definitely aware that he and his offers to deliver were weird. One day in May of 2018, I was invited to a bonfire by the same ratty skaters that introduced me to this guy. I had no idea that he'd be there, nor was it important to me at all. I brought the guy I was dating at the time. I said hey to everyone, including Max. We stayed for a couple of hours, and some of them played some music on their guitars. Nearing the time I was leaving, the bonfire around 11 p.m., Max was getting upset about something, threw his guitar in the bonfire. I didn't know what he was angry or upset about, and paid no mind to it. This happened as I was leaving with the guy that I was dating. I went to bed and woke up to paragraph on paragraphs of crazy text messages from Max, ranging from 1 a.m. to 5 a.m., like a constant stream of texts, stating things such as, "You know how much I loved you? You are a cruel cunt." He would go back and forth between saying, "I would give you the world if you'd just let me," and "Do you really deserve him, though?" He said really scary things like, "You're a predator and should be snubbed out. Just wait." And "You are stuck. I will either love you or hate you to the fullest extent of my powers. Right now, I pay the worst death to you, and that fuckboy bitch. To top it all off," he said, "losing you is like losing a mother to me," and told me to tell him that I never loved him, and that I wouldn't hear from him again if I did. So that's what I did. I said I never loved you, do not message me again, and I left it at that. I didn't get a response, nor did I care to get one. Max had never expressed any romantic interest. Never asked me out or anything. This was all out of nowhere, and he was 11 years older than me. I was barely 18. That night, he cut his long hair off and posted photos naked on Facebook, curled up in the fetal position, talking about being a statue of shame. It's as if he had a breakdown, but I had no intention of causing that, and didn't think I would even offend anyone by bringing the guy that I was seeing. Everyone else seemed to like the guy that I brought. About a week later, Max texted me pretty late at night and asked if I had seen the flowers that he spread along my sidewalk, saying that he stole every flower in the vicinity of my neighborhood that night. I asked how he knew where I lived, and said I hadn't seen the flowers, so he must have had the wrong house. I also told him that he shouldn't do that, as I never felt anything for him, and so on. He told me that he had heard I lived on the same block as another one of the skater guys that we were both friends with. And he wasn't wrong about that. The skater guy I lived by was on the other side of the block, and I never walked that way, so I never saw the flowers. I blocked his number and didn't hear from him again for weeks. Weeks later, I woke up after a rough night, and there were loads of flowers on the sidewalk right outside my house, along with a little bouquet at the top of my walkway. I was pissed. I wasn't scared yet, and stupidly, I unblocked his number and texted him asking why the fuck there were flowers outside of my house. This confirmed that this indeed was where I lived. I still to this day feel so stupid for texting him and making it known that after weeks he had found my house. He responded saying, sounds nice. 'Twas me. I bitched him out, basically, and blocked his number once again. About a week later, I was out of town, and my roommate texted me a photo of a heart with a peace sign inside of it, and my name written under it drawn in chalk outside of our house. When I got back into town, I went to the courthouse and began the process of getting a stalking order against him. When I left the courthouse, I went to Max's work, told him he needed to stop this behavior, and that he was stalking me. He looked me in the eye with no facial expression and said, "If you don't leave, I am calling the cops." I got angry and said loudly, "Call the cops? I was just talking to them about you," and left his work in a rage. Soon after this, I began driving again. I once drove by him, and he noticed it was me. The next day I woke up with my car covered in flowers. I presented my case to the judge, and she put the stalking order in place. He was served with it by the police officers, and I thought that was that, and that he wouldn't bother me ever again. I was wrong. After the order was served, he made several other chalk messages on my sidewalk, left random gifts for me like chalk, and beheaded My Little Pony heads on beer bottles. I always brought these things to the police station, but they said that I needed to catch him doing it, take a picture, or get a security camera. So I got a security camera, and really hoped it would catch him. It turned out my security camera was stupid, and I couldn't just watch the videos that it took, but had to skip through second by hand. It was an impossible task. I was terrified of leaving my house at night at this point. I never had my curtains open anymore, and I was so frustrated that my livelihood was being taken away from me. Ultimately, I unblocked his number, in hopes that he would text me directly, violating the stalking order. After a few days, it worked. He sent me a weird text saying something like, "Forgive me. We are charming. This is harming. Let us try again." By now it's September of 2018, and he finally goes to jail. He is facing up to a year in jail, and has to stay there until our court date. I finally start calming down. I'm able to go outside at night, even if it's just to get to my car. I let myself have my curtains open sometimes. I'm starting to feel alive again. Right when I start feeling secure in my small town life again, someone posted bail, and he was released only in 3 months of jail, and I went back to living in fear. We still had court dates coming up, and I was optimistic that he would serve more time for ruining my life for so long. His lawyer kept pushing the court date back to give further evidence, and after about 6 months of pushing it back, the state decided he couldn't do anything anymore, and closed the case basically. I had moved out of town 3+ hours away at this point, so he didn't actually have an option to continue this behavior. Living in this new place, I do feel safe. I can walk at night and don't have to have my curtains closed all the time. It's been over a year since they decided to close that case. About a month ago, he began responding to my friends' Instagram stories, friends that live here in this new town, telling them how fond he is of me. I have always had him blocked, but my Instagram isn't private, so he must have found them that way. I have since changed my account to private, and he hasn't messaged any more of my friends. I refuse to be fearful now, the way that I was then. He will never find where I live or where I work now. However, my life is forever changed after this experience. I will always be more aware of people and their weird energy. I will always close my curtains early in the evening and make sure all of the windows and doors are locked. I will always live a little bit in fear. Maybe not of him, but of it happening once again. He ruined my life for a year, and I truly wish that he had gotten that time in jail. He deserves it. So Max, I hope that I never see you again. Edit. When I say that they closed the case, this means that I had no further court dates, and he wasn't sentenced to a year. He was served with a stalking order, which is stated earlier in the story. The stalking order is permanently in place. This was not part of the case that was closed. I say case closed for lack of knowledge of a better term for this. So this happened fairly recently to me. It was about 2 months ago, and is still pretty fresh in my mind. I'm a 26-year-old male, and I'm really close with a work colleague of mine who is a 31-year-old female, and she currently goes through a tough time with a guy who knocked her up and left her alone, so I've been making extra effort to be there for her. I always joke about her getting me into trouble and getting me involved in weird situations, but it's usually pretty harmless. So we arranged to come around to my place. Her kids are with her ex-husband, and she kinda is stuck at home doing nothing. I offer to cook her something, and we both watch a movie. Innocent enough. I pick her up at her place, drive her to mine. We laugh and joke about something on the 30-second walk from the parking spot to my place, and we walk past a pretty shoddy building that is situated right next to my apartment. I've lived here for over a year and really don't spend much time in the area, because it's not the most amazing place. As I walk past the shoddy building, I see an angry-looking dude staring out of it. Didn't really see it as suspicious, because I'm just used to freaks living nearby, and open the back door to the building and walk into my apartment. I was making a curry, and I like to let it stew for a couple of hours. As soon as I get home, I prepare the ingredients. Friend asks if she can get some fresh air. I say sure, just open up the window, make yourself at home. She opens it up, and I hear a rock or something hitting it. She jumps backwards. I look outside to see the previous angry-looking guy glaring at us, screaming, "Come out, you pussy!" I think, well, he knows where I live, and I don't want my friend getting into any trouble, so I walk downstairs and go talk to him. He is immediately irate, keeps telling me that I need to watch what I say, and asks if I think that I'm better than him. I have no clue what he's talking about, and ask him who he is. This just makes him angrier. The guy is slightly taller and bigger than me, and tries to intimidate me. I never break eye contact, or show signs of weakness in a confrontation, despite thinking he's definitely going to beat the crap out of me. He says I own 5 guns, and I would bust your kneecaps in. Don't even test me. I could have 10 of my homeboys come over to your place in an hour to fuck you up. I say I have no idea who he is, and I'm not looking for trouble. I feel visibly angry and want to strangle him, but I know it would end in my ass being kicked, so I stay cool. He demands I apologize to him, and I tell him that I'm sorry if I hurt his feelings, but I have no idea why he's mad. My friend comes down, which I was dreading because she is as stubborn as I am. Tells him off for acting so childishly, and instead of lashing out at her, his demeanor changes entirely. He apologizes and says that I just made him really mad. I piss him off to no end. Still haven't explained why yet, and after a couple of minutes of talking to her, calms down completely. He asks me, "Hey, do you smoke weed?" I tell him no, not really. He proceeds to tell me he knows my landlord, and gives me my landlord's full name, and he's a businessman. Tells me he does business with everyone in the apartment block except me, and has a proposal for me. I hear him out, mostly because he seemed calm and collected now. He offers me a deal where I take something from him, keep it in my room, and when he comes to collect, he pays me $5,000. Now I'm trying to get into university, and that money could really help me out. So I was tempted to say yes, but I declined and explained that my dad's a cop, and I'm applying to work in a prison as a psychologist, so maybe it wouldn't be a best idea to partner with this business venture. He must have pulled my number from someone, because he drops me a text an hour later saying, "Tell your friend I'd fuck her all over." Obviously, I'm a little freaked out that he has my number, but I stay cool and don't reply. My friend and I are at this point and have eaten and watched a horror movie together. I dropped her off at home, and that was that. Until the next day. He called me and wanted to know about my application for the prison job, and I say that I was declined. He proceeds to tell me that I can make a bunch of money on the side if I help him out, and I declined that too. He gets really upset and says, "You're a grass, aren't you?" To which I laugh and says no. He tells me he will call me later and hasn't called in the last 2 months. I tried doing some digging, and he's not that big shot that he makes himself out to be. But regardless, I don't want to see him again. So I'm a 23-year-old female, but at the time I was working there, and I was about to turn 19. And for reference, this all takes place at my local gas station. I have a fairly young face, and I'm very short to the point that I had to climb onto the checkout counter to stock cigarettes. It was not fun, and the customers loved to watch. So I've had many experiences, but this one took the cake. There was this local weed dealer that came in a few times a night to get sodas and food. The gas station I worked at specialized in fried chicken, and he always had a special order made by the cook, who I was good friends with. This dealer was called Bubba. It's his fake name. Don't need locals recognizing it, since it's super recognizable. Most of my coworkers bought from him, so oftentimes they would go behind the place to buy from him. I worked 4 p.m. to midnight, and on my first night he came. He took a shine to me and started to flirt with me. Many people have taken my kindness as flirting. He was one of those people, and soon it got creepy. He kept saying how he and I would have dates, and he'd tell me about this yellow dress he bought for me to wear on the dates. One night, on my way out of clocking out, he approached me and caught me off guard. He kissed me on the cheek and then walked away laughing, leaving me standing there shocked, and I felt violated. It freaked me out, but not enough to stop me from coming to work because I loved my job. Now, whenever I took breaks, I took them at this dark area next to the store that had a makeshift bench on it. It was quiet, and I liked it. Turns out one night, when I didn't take my break since it got busy, he was waiting there for me. Now one night he calls the store, asking my supervisor to talk to me. She knew this guy was a creep, and told him no, she's working. She hung up on him after a few moments, and later told me that he said afterwards. Apparently he sounded very drunk, and said that I could see her in the window. She isn't working. Put her on the damn phone. Put her on the phone now. He was very angry for some reason, and she made sure to keep an eye out for him that night. Fast forward 2 days later. I'm working my usual shift, and it's around midnight. Our policy is to have to close the store in order for it to roll into a new business day. Our car pulls up in front of the store, and from where I was stationed, I could see outside the store into the parking lot. It was Bubba sitting in his car, staring at me with a very angry look on his face. He didn't get out of the car. He just sat there, staring at me. He seemed to be playing with something while staring at me. My friends who were surprising me by picking me up that night. One of my male friends, who is super tall, said that they walked past this car, and he happened to look over. Bubba was playing with a big knife, and there was duct tape and rope sitting in the front seat. After that, I noped the hell out of there and quit that job. We see him once in a while around town, but I'm always with my friends. I'm just lucky that he never learned my first name, and that I didn't walk home that night like I usually do. It was a pretty freaky experience that shattered my innocent view of the world. To start, I'm not a racist person, and it shows with who I choose to speak with and be friends with. This incident had me terrified because I wouldn't speak, because I have had my words twisted as a racist words. Now at the time, I worked at Walmart and worked closing shift of the service desk. This had me leaving the store at around 11 p.m. My bus arrived at one station at 11:50 p.m., so yeah, I was pretty much home by 1 or 2 a.m. This was a Friday night, and I was arriving at this one station from a train at 11:30 p.m. with a 20-minute wait time. There was a group there. Usually it was pretty quiet, but this night, there was a concert that let out at 10:40 p.m., and people were using the train and buses to get home. Now I walk off and get bombarded by this one man. He is slurring a bit and smelled. He was definitely drunk. He looked at me, asking if I'm interested in some weed or some drugs. To this I shake my head and start reading a manga that I bought. He pesters me a few times before going about asking me again. I look up when he says my book was awkward, then asks if I'm thirsty. Again, I silently pray for him to go away. "You don't like me because I'm Mexican," he blurts out, and suddenly I look confused. My fiancée is half Hispanic, half Native American, and I really never noticed this guy talking to me as Hispanic. I just blink and wonder if I should have said to the jerk to leave me alone, or it would do me little to no good. No, she don't like drunks. Now leave her alone. A Hispanic person walks up and starts talking to him in Spanish, and the guy backs off until the bus arrives. I get on and sit down. Sure enough, the dealer guy is on, and he tries to sit right next to me, invading my personal space. I'm about to move when the guy sees the other guy who told him to leave me alone and get on. The guy gets up and sits across from me. I'm still reading my book, and the guy suddenly asks again if I want weed. That was when I said sarcastically, "What I want is the complete Samurai Deeper Kyo and Rurouni Kenshin manga series. And I know that is impossible for this guy to understand." "Sure, babe, just come to my place, and I will get it." He sounded serious, and suddenly I saw two young people start laughing. Yeah, it must have sounded really funny. I was laughing nervously. "I'll get you whatever you want." The guy was sounding more weird each second. When he got off, someone whispered. He must have thought that those anime series were drugs. So, race card throwing drug dealer, let's not meet again. So this happened to me in UAE. I was out with my friend and his close friends. We stayed at a bar for a couple of hours and then went to this Mexican restaurant nearby. Being an introvert, I was sitting alone, feeling socially anxious and hoping that my friend would want to leave soon. A guy sitting at a table came up to me, started talking to me about random stuff, which was pretty fun. It was getting late, and the restaurant was closing up soon. They dimmed the lights, and everyone left except for us. Soon a British guy around my age at that time, who was around 20 years old, came up to us with a bleeding forehead. It seemed like he got punched really bad. He started talking about weird stuff. It was clear that he wasn't sober. He was annoying us a lot, and my friend was very low tolerance for anger. We decided to leave, but he was like, "If you leave, I will fucking murder you all. You don't know me. I'm with the mafia." And he told us that he is a dealer and knows a lot of people who can screw us up. The nice guy I was talking to, Kim, was calm and believed that instead of causing a fight or calling the security, we should try talking to him, because he may have gone through a lot of things. The restaurant was closing up, and this dealer started following us, threatening to kill us with a knife he had in his bag. Kim tried a lot to calm him down, but it wasn't affecting him at all. He started being violent, physically, towards Kim. I was scared and didn't know how to get out of this situation. My friend's friend pulled his car in front of us, asking him for a lighter. When the lady got out of the car, this dealer dude went and sat inside the car with her husband and wouldn't get off. The husband got super pissed. He got out of his car, opened the door, and pushed this dude out. The husband was super pissed and was willing to kill him. Even the wife started beating this drug dealer up. Soon the security came and took this dude. While walking away, he just kept screaming, "Screw you all! I will spare you. I have dealt with you bullies all my life. Screw you." Although I'm glad that he got taken away, I also felt bad for him because it seemed like something really sad must have happened to him to become like this. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, like, and hit the bell for notifications on future videos and become a stalker of the night. And I'll see you next time.